So if I can find a way to do that using virtual production LE stages, then not only do I access the tax rebate on their fees, but also I keep my own costs on because I'm not flying them everywhere. The other one I was going to add to this is the environment. Now, it might seem that there's a lot of lights and so I'll just stay with this photograph for a minute. So you might think, oh, I've got this big massive screen, a lot of power needs to be used for that. But truthfully, LED stages use up about the same amount of power as a regular film shoot. I mean, we use a lot of energy on set. So once the stage is built, everything it's pretty cost efficient once it's up there. So it really does save the environment sometimes, not having to move a lot of people around on planes and trucks and everything else. And then I'll just go into very quickly what it takes to build the LED stage. You know, we've built it, we've got to rig it, we've got the setup. So that can be taken anywhere. You can load that onto a truck and drive it literally anywhere. What you as a producer need to do is find a big enough venue with enough power that you can build that stage safely. So on this particular movie, due to the pandemic affecting concerts and live performances, we went to a place in London where they designed all the stages for the big bands, and they had all of this space, and they had like a 20-foot stage, and we were able to go in there, and they couldn't do anything with it because they literally couldn't do anything during the pandemic. They couldn't tour, they couldn't do anything. So you don't need anything specific, but you need space and power, and you can do that. So what else is involved is camera tracking. So there's a lot of technical work that we need to do in order to match the cameras with the projection and the lenses. We need to capture the plates if they're live action or if we're creating them as CG and environment build. And if we build a CG environment, it allows us to really in real time manipulate so much more of those backgrounds than if we have a live action. With live action, we can manipulate the grade and a few, the grade, the contrast, various kind of picture things. But obviously, we can't move people around in live action. It's a live action plate, so whatever we've shot is there. If we've built the environment in CG, we'll have layers of all of those different environments. So if there's a crowd, we can have all of those individual people in the crowd and we can move them around and we can have them react to what's happening in front of the CG environment. So it's incredibly immersive and interactive in that sense. So we spoke about the recreation. And then obviously we need some sort of engine, some sort of gaming engine, because that's how virtual production works. And there is just a wide shot. You'll see that we have a screen hanging from the roof, and that was also to help with the lighting, the environment of the car moving, so that you really got a sense of that action. And again, that action, we didn't film the sky, we just took the plates and we used the images and the movement of the images to create that lighting movement, so everything matches.
This is more a reflector, yeah. Not we don't use it for taking some shots on that. It's a reflector, actually.
Yeah, it's reflection. It's also one of the big things when you see people inside cars and the lighting doesn't integrate with the backgrounds. So you go past a big white bus and the people inside the car still no lighting changes. So this kind of technology really helps with that. This is for any tech people out there who want to know exactly what was in that shoot. So we had 240 panels on the wall, and I think 100 panels on the ceiling. That's it there. And that's the behind the stage, because I think that's quite interesting, how this is all connected and built together. Okay, the next thing, I'm going to show you a bit of a video, because obviously it's more interesting to look at how this is done. And here are the thing. This is the next video. Has my business partner shot an advertisement for a video game, and he was able to. He had built a lot of the backgrounds, obviously in advance, and he left a lot of layers in those elements. So you understand what I mean by layers, the different elements within the frame. So he was able to manipulate these as he shot them with the actor on set. And I think I need to come out of my PowerPoint in order to do this. No, it doesn't have sound, but I'm going to stop at various places so that you get an idea. So those are obvious all who's now here. So this is what I mean by being able to manipulate real time as he shoots. So he's looking on his computer screen at the backgrounds, and he's able to manipulate some of the elements in his backgrounds and change the lighting on it. And that's really how it looks, the wide shot of how it looks. You can see the art department's still required for everything in the foreground. The camera is pushing in, and you can just about see, you see my mouse, you see this element here? This is the framing of the lens that is shooting. So everything else has the images, but this little section that the camera's lens sees is exactly calibrated to match the camera lens so that it looks real, so that it looks like it's the real exact distance it should be from the subjects that it's pointing at, if that makes sense. You see it better there, how this element is it's separate to the rest of it. The rest of it stays there for lighting purposes, but that's what the camera's seeing. And you see it again as they move across. Here's the line here.
Now we can see better what happens on the ceiling.
And that's what the camera's seeing. You've got old-fashioned techniques as well.
Yes.
Okay. So has anyone any questions about that?
I think that there are many questions, but let's start.
This was highly advertised in the Mandalorian, this real-time rendering and the environment which was out of the world, etc. Just a year ago, it was very publicly advertised that the whole of the Mandalorian was shot in this way with LED walls and real-time rendering and resolutions.
Yes, but the difference is, I think, that The Mandalorian had an enormous budget, and I'm assuming that people in this room don't have access to that particular budget.
Are these budgets coming down through technology and
Well, absolutely. I mean, the beauty of Unreal Engine is that it's absolutely free. So the technology to do this is absolutely free. And the cost and that's something I'll touch upon. So whenever people talk about what happens in Mandalorian, it's a case study that nobody will ever be able to put their hands on, in many ways, because
so extreme, so expensive?
yeah,
The walls and all that.
and also I think with the Mandalorian the way studios work is in an incredibly controlled way. So the studios have everything planned and they have to be signed off in a way that is very different from independent producers. Independent producers make decisions pretty much on their own. They have to find the money on their own. They have to make the decisions on their own. They have to deliver for those investors or they won't get any more money. And I think what virtual production does and all of that Mandalorian stuff is fantastic, and it just highlights technology. But what we're trying to say here is this technology is accessible. This is not just for the Mandalorian. And how does it work so that you guys can see this is how this is accessible for you. It doesn't need to be used even in that way. That way, it's nowhere near the budget of Mandalorian, but it's still a budget on it, and we built those walls for that particular thing. But if 4 or 5 producers club together here and build a wall, then they can use that for several projects. I mean, it's about independent thought process and producing entrepreneurship and applying that to this technology, because I think when people watch stuff about The Mandalorian, they just go, oh, that's too much, that's not for us, we can't use this. But the reality is you can use it. You just need to find a few cool tech people who are happy to jump on board. So.
Any other questions until now? So I'd like to ask something.
Yes.
Actually, I found that video that you've showed before a while very rich in information. And here at the beginning, if you want to play it because you are connected, there is a shot with many pics with comments on it. Maybe is that the dailies that they have to shoot? It shows that talking about the process of doing that one. Yes.
This is basically the storyboard.
The storyboard, a concrete storyboard. It shows like that. Yeah.
And that's one of the things it doesn't really matter what you're shooting, but one of the things I really try to push for is very detailed preparation. And Haz is super detailed when he does these. So he has every shot listed out. And because he's built those backgrounds previously, much prior to the shoot. And that's the whole thing about the vertical workflow, because everything's built. Technology is a tool. We're still going to use methods that we need to use. It's not... Technology is something we designed for us. And I think people kind of sometimes forget that, and they think that sometimes technology is going to change or even threaten a certain way of doing things. No, technology is there for us. We design it to enable us to have greater scope with our ideas, or just to make things simpler or quicker. So, I mean, that storyboard could have been done in 1930, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. But now involves all the specialties that come together to bring up with the final result, yeah?
Exactly. And I think, I'll just go back to this. So, So this is how I see today's workflow. It's a little bit. No, this is the wrong slide. Now I'm going to build it and then I'm going to destroy it. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. And
so we can see that the previous form is like a pole, yeah?
Yeah, and now this is how it works. We've got the script happening at the same time as the post-production. Because whenever we're writing our scripts, we are actually going, okay, so how can we do this scenario in a different place? Can we make this action scene in a different way? So we're in Unreal Engine, we're prevising things, and it's all part of the creative process. We're doing the VFX while we're doing the script. We're grading the backgrounds as well, sometimes when we're writing the script. We're editing the previs. We're shooting the previs to use as plates, or we're shooting really live plates and then we're adding CG elements to those live plates. And we're also using sound because I really feel like there's so many disciplines in post-production. There's so many great artistic elements that if you bring a sound supervisor in right at the beginning and say, look, how can we achieve this using these 2 or 3 elements, what you find is a much more holistic approach, and something that when the sound supervisor comes to get that picture lock, that it's not a surprise. They've actually been able to help tell the story at a much earlier stage. And we do things several times.
And it's shaped as a sphere, yeah? From pole to sphere.
Yeah. I mean, and also we're releasing the film, bits of the film, while we're making it. And this is something that we found really useful in building up a marketing campaign for the different little projects we do, and for bigger projects. We can shoot little scenes without even the actors in them, and release that as online in the Instagram stories about building the story of the film. And of course the casting element comes, for me, it can come at a much later stage now, because I'm not dependent on cast to shoot some of my film, and to me that's really exciting. Of course it also helps get the cast if I can show them something really cool and they think, oh, this is going to look great. Who are these people? What are they doing? Oh, this is going to look great. Yeah, that's it. That's the, oh no, we have to go through that again. Let me just, yeah, there we go. So that's it, the way I see it. And again, this kind of brings me to the whole previs thing. But has anyone any questions about that last part?
In a minute.
Hello, my name is Antonis and welcome.
Hi.
Is this technology something we can call it elite technology, something that cannot be found in some countries probably, or in some low-budget films, or are there schools that can teach this kind of technology in order to prepare the new generation, in order to have it and not need it you from UK, even though we would like to see you around, but we need other people to do the things for us. How does this help our own small industry growing up and develop it in Thessaloniki, for example? I'm not talking about Athens, I'm talking about Thessaloniki and in Greece in general. This is my question. Thank you.
So the Epic gaming technology you can download for free. It's 100% free. And anyone who's in gaming knows that you don't really get a book of instructions. So a lot of people using this Unreal Engine technology will be Googling things on YouTube. They'll be learning it like that. That's pretty much how we work with people all over the world, and they're not for our animation. We work very, very guerrilla style on what we do, and it's really just about people downloading the software for free. You can go to asset libraries, download a bunch of assets for free, and you can start just building your own world. And what's great about it is you can put the camera anywhere you want in that world, and you can start filming things. You can download people assets. All you have to do is just like jump in, join an epic Unreal, one of those online group forums, and within a few months you'll have all of the connections, all of the links to all of that you need. What you do need is it's the hardware. So it's the engines, the speed of your hard drive and your computers, because obviously if you've got an ability to do all of this incredible real-time stuff, but if you're sitting there every time you click the button and try to render something, then it's just like going to take an hour. It starts to get really demotivating. So if that's where the money is. Spend your money on the hardware, and just the forums are amazing. I mean, all of this stuff, technology has always been led by people sitting in a room just wanting to explore stuff. So technology and all of these fantastic softwares, a lot of them are just free to download. You just got to go and search for them.
Yeah, it has a delay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But lately I came across to some videos on YouTube that shows how to create your own green screen and at your place, which the only thing that it's okay to get familiar with all of these softwares, which most of them are free. You can download it for free, and to purchase some equipment in order to accomplish your dreams, which is super, yeah? I mean, it's...
I think so, yeah.
Hello, I'm Angelos.
Hi.
I think that this whole horizontal workflow that you presented, even though it might be something new for the big production companies and etc., I think that indie filmmakers have been using that for quite a while because of the restrictions on the equipment, the budget, and all of that. My question is, do you think that big production companies, or even Hollywood, and all of these, do you think that they should copy the ways and methods of smaller and independent filmmakers and companies in general?
I think that the big difference between indie filmmakers, I mean, I'm talking like, you're talking micro-budget filmmakers, right? So people who are making films for like a couple of €100,000 or less. Because that's one, to me, the micro-budget filmmakers and the blockbuster filmmakers are all dealing with the same issues in many ways, but for very different reasons, right? So a lot of the time with the big movies, there's a lot of people to sign off on how things happen, and there's a lot of logistics. not due to lack of cash, but due to people's schedule, because the bigger the movie, the bigger and more important the people involved, and the less time that they have. So it kind of, my experience has been, I have experienced similar problems making the films that we made for a couple of 100,000 as I did working on films that were 200 million. And that might seem, the only difference is the one in the 200 million, everyone was getting paid for the whole time, whereas the other one, everyone was just doing it for free. But I think that in the that there are, it's really important when you're making movies and you're dealing with investors. It's really important to make those investors feel confident and secure that their money is not going to be used in a dangerous way. You know, so that's where I think this type of structure can apply now to movies in a very different way, because it's been my experience, those mid-movies, you do have to get your cast involved. You don't raise the finance. You don't, you know, they come hand in hand. You don't get to make a movie for 5 to 30 million without having named cast in there. So I think, you know, that vertical workflow has always been there for that reason, and it's also been due to when you've got a bond signing off the cash flow, you've got to hit certain targets. And, you know, principal photography, picture lock, these kind of things are targets. So I don't know if that answers your question. I hope.
Yeah, it answers it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Previs. So I'm working on a film, pretty small budget movie that's going to be set on the moon, and we've done quite a bit of previs to, you know, try and attract talent and investors. And again, all of this previs that you're looking at was done by one person with free assets that they had downloaded some of the assets and then recolored them, relit them, and stuff like that. So it's something you can almost take your whole movie and design it in advance. And everyone knows exactly what they're looking at. The other great thing about previs, and you know, previs has been around for a long, long time, right? But the difference with this virtual production and gaming technology is that anyone really who's technically minded can start doing this. And that with the previs you can figure out things like stunts, dance movements, all sorts of things that you need to know in advance for, especially for low budget. You don't have a lot of time with those stunt people. So I think the next one is the video. Okay. So I don't have any, actually, let me go back. Do we have audio on the TV? No? So you see how many credits there were in that? That it was all made from free technology, and I'm not, it's pre-viz. It's not supposed to look like a finished thing, but what it does show, for example, when the astronauts are walking across the moon, that could so easily be done with on a LED stage, a couple of astronaut suits, and it'll look fantastic. So there's also, again, talking about budget and doing things for cheap. There's lots of these. There's a company that works with Epic, and they have already gone out and scanned a lot of different landscapes. You can actually download. You can recycle and reuse all of these assets if you build something new, and you share them. I mean, all of these people are sharing these assets on open source and in different ways. You can skin them, reuse them, a huge variety of ways, and it saves time and money. And also, when you go to big VFX houses, a lot of the time they just want to make it themselves. But you can have leverage with them and say, I don't want you to make it. I want you to use the assets available. So I mean, one of the reasons we're so able to move so quickly with our films that we make at New Boyana is that we've got a massive catalogue of all of these assets that we've built, and an ambulance can be skinned to look like an ambulance in any country in the world. It's once those 3D assets are there, you can reuse them.
You told me yesterday during our lunch that London is already being scanned.
Yeah.
And you can use it in any season, in any, changing some things, and to have it in a new film.
Exactly, and obviously things are still copywritten, so buildings and cities are still subject to copyright. But if you search far enough, you will be amazed at maybe some people in the audience wouldn't be amazed, but there is a lot of stuff out there for free that you can use.
And you can use it as the structure of a town, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. When you need to... and that's the thing about virtual production. When you're building your world inside the computer, and let's face it, that's what virtual production is. It's doing something virtually, doing your production in a virtual manner. And that can be for animation, it can be live action, it can be whatever, if it's building a game or if it's, building something in your world and then using those elements in other things, like in augmented reality or anything like that. Once you've built those assets, you can use them. You can, for me, and this is where the big movies, like our biggest thing that slows down our post-production schedule is always going to be approvals from creatives, and the more we can do with both having their ownership on what they're getting from the start and being able to show them this, but also it's about whenever you've got like 150 VFX artists sitting waiting for the execs to give some direction on a certain, on the shape of a monster or a creature, which literally will affect every other shot that they're doing, this is really expensive. So, in all ways, whether it's somebody who's just given you their own money to make a film or whether it's a huge corporate, executive approval is something that really helps. And I also think, very quickly going back to what it means to work in a non-vertical way means that you have input from all of the people throughout the process. Now, you do have to manage it and control it very carefully, because sometimes too many voices at the wrong time can also be a bad thing. But I think if you work with if you've got a strong vision, then you're able to go through that process in a much more holistic way, organically, without damaging the vision, but with actually enhancing it. So I'm a really big believer that people feel more ownership to the project and have more involvement. And I think that's it. I mean, so would we like to open it up a little bit, or?
Did you finish with?
I think it is. The next thing is, the enhanced storytelling, which I've just discussed, and then I've got the trailer for that we built in Unreal Engine completely. So would you like me to show that, or do you want any questions?
I think that it's better you to finish with
the film.
With the film, and
the only thing is we don't have audio. Is there any way to get audio on this?
On what, on the film?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my mic here. I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
Play the film.
Okay, so this feature film, it's an animation. It's been made for a very small amount of money, and basically all made in Unreal Engine. And this is the kind of quality you can get. I mean, I think we've got about less than 15 people working on this in complete. Less than 15. Yeah, less than 15.
What did Leon promise?
To never let anything happen to me. To protect me, no matter what.
Where did they take my brother?
What if we could somehow jump into alternate realities in a multiverse of infinite possibilities? What if we had the power to see alternate versions of ourselves and see through their own eyes the outcomes of the decisions we ourselves are confronted with? What is the thread that connects the us of this moment in time? What can we learn from the outcomes of our choices in each of these realities? Would we pick a different path? Would it make a difference?
Okay. We are in a thresholder of this kind of making films. Actually, we're past the doorstep, and I'm wondering, as a filmmaker, how I can benefit from this new technology. Well,
I think if first of all, Greece has a fantastic tax rebate now. So, if you work with a VFX company or different people, or talk to them, get them to use this software, and figure out where it fits in their stories. I mean, I think you can be a little bit more ambitious. I mean, there's scenes in that animation that if we were using traditional animation, we could never afford to have all of those characters, those backgrounds, and do that. But we've been able to build them, render them, view them, make notes on them, go back, can adjust the movement, the color, the shape, the size, come back. And this is a combination of people using mocapture suits that they've bought online, and some of it's really incredible technology that there's people out there who are developing all the time, and they need filmmakers to try this stuff out. So it's about taking a chance, and it's about, I think that film producers will use it in the way they have always used it, with their own initiative and innovation. That's what independent producers do.
We have to be adapted on that new conditions. I mean, we have to change our way of thinking. I mean, it's completely different from the traditional way of making films. Even to work together with all the specialties that are going to involve in your project, in your film, and to end up with a final result, and from there to iron, as we say, decoupage, and going for the shooting just for some days, and which is enough. And you have already done a lot of work from post-production in advance. But on the other hand, you have to. Everyone has to change habits. I mean, the actor has to act in a vacuum green void, as we say, wearing a mock-up, ridiculous sometimes suits, and talking to a stick.
But I think those are the ways of the past, and that's what I think is so good about this, is that now there's technology where you don't even need the suit. So we've just done a deal with a new developer with this brand new technology where you literally they've got all of these cameras, and you don't even wear a mocap suit. So you can have the real actors. Most of the time we use mocap actors because the real actors don't. Real actors a lot of the time are taught to less movement of their body.
Like in the video that you showed us.
Those were mocap actors. Yeah. There's a whole community of mocap people out there who just do mocap.
But the actor knows the environment that he has to perform on it,
Exactly. With live action, if it's a live action, like in Percival, the actor was able to see these environments and get a feel for everything. So I think, it's adaptation, but it's not out of the world, because we're living with it on our computer screens anyway. This is just more immersive between how we do things and how we apply them to what we do.
And it has to do, all of these people communicate in a certain base. I mean, everyone has to know some things about how this technology works.
Well, I don't know if this is the thing. They don't need to necessarily know how the technology works. But it does always help, I think, to have some understanding of things. But I guess they just have to understand how it can benefit them. I wouldn't expect the writer to be too up to speed on how this works. But if they know that, if the producer says, no, like, seriously, don't worry, if you want to put 4 more locations in there. I mean, most writers in indie scene, they write thinking, I can't put too much in here because the producer will read my script and they'll go, well, we can never make that, it's too expensive. So I think if they know that they can put more in there and that they can get that made, and they can say, well, if you use virtual production, you could do it like this, then maybe they can think in a different way, but they don't have to know the detail.
And all of those are tools to realize your vision and to accomplish the film that you have to, that you want to say, yes? I mean, for me, it's a tool. If I have to say a film in that way, yes, I can use it, and but of course I can watch I can see the benefits of the whole procedure. Because apart from, I'm a director and producer as well, so I have to be in both boats.
Exactly.
Sorry. First ladies. Okay.
You don't have to stand so close to the.
Sorry. I have a question concerning the cast. Okay. The cast and crew. Sorry. It's just that if most of the film can be shot in a studio with CG, on which criteria do you decide that this sequence or this scene is going to be shot in a real location? And this one, because for instance, Expendable, you have the cast here, you'll bring the cast. So I guess you have to do an arbitrage between what is the most costly, and how do you decide that?
Well, I think so. So, for example, we're building a lot of real sets here for Expendables. We have certain actors for certain number of days, mostly. I mean, Stallone, I think, is finished on the Expendables, and everything there was shot in London 2 weeks. So that obviously, if we know that we've only got him for those 2 weeks, then that will make our decision on what we should, using this technology or, with real locations. Obviously, we don't have time in 2 weeks to move him around too much. We want to maximize all of those shooting hours. And a lot of the time, again, with stunts. Stunts is the big thing we use virtual technology for, is we do a lot of planning around stunts, both for safety, but also because the actors like to see what their stunts are going to look like, and they have ideas. And that's really good, because all of these guys, they have ideas and they want to feed into those ideas, and you don't get much time to shoot those stunts. So you want to make sure that whatever you do shoot is going to be enough to make that scene feel action, and also give you enough coverage, and at the same time in the right creative direction for what the actors are doing. And because obviously they're not shooting those stunts themselves, but they're involved in parts of them. Yeah, I know they're, the clever way we shoot those things, they're there, but some of the things they're doing obviously is not them. So I guess, does that sort of answer it? It really just depends on the individual situation. I mean, say for example, I was shooting a movie about here, and I had a lovely scene where I'd shot where the lead actor was walking along the promenade to the tower castle at the bottom. I might shoot all of that, and then I have a similar scene, but it's in winter time. I'll use the plates that I shot with the actor. I'll shoot without the actor, And then I've only got the actor, I'm in Thessaloniki, I'm not going to wait to come back in winter. So I'm going to take those plates, take them to VFX, add all the different elements onto it, and then use them in 2 or 3 days later on the same shoot. So that's another way that we kind of make those decisions.
Hi, first of all, I must say that I feel like a painter that just heard that photography is invented. So I don't know if I feel threatened or relieved. I have a basic question, because I have seen 2 sets, one of James Bond with levels, backgrounds, and another in your studio. It's a back projection of 3D environment, because I have seen one backdrop behind and one at the upper one. How do you project this world? And another one, if you have one level here, you don't have 360, like we've seen in your 3D animation. How do you overcome?
Well, so basically when you shoot in live action, and we use this technology with live action, what we do is the plates on those were live action plates, right? So you would have shot them like any other plate shoot. The unit goes ahead, they make sure they've chosen the lenses they want to work with and the action, and they just shoot the plates. Then those plates go to VFX. VFX then...
green screen or blue screen, that's what you're talking about.
No, so what happens is those plates then go to our VFX crew, and they make sure that they're the right aspect ratio for the screen. And then depending on what the action is, so if the action had have been a tracking movement on the camera, going from left to right, for example, then we would have used a 300 degree, because the camera would need to go like that. But because the camera in this was only ever going to be like that, we only built that wall. And we built the wall bigger so that we'd get the light from the wall for the entire thing. So we moved the car and not the screen on that particular shoot. With the other one, with the Percival, it was a much more 300 degree, it's 260 or something like that, but that's because there was different type of action being used, and you see they had tracks and they were tracking in. So it's all again about the planning. It's not, we could just use those LED screens and turn them blue, and then they'd just be like a blue screen again. And sometimes I've done that just for safety. I've just said, let's just shoot one for safety, that we've just got a green screen. There could still be work done to those shots afterwards. But really, you really want to try and get them done as quickly as possible. And another reason for doing this as well is the release date. The more that you've done in control before you go into editorial, then you can be more sure of when your release date's going to be. Of meeting your release date. And the other question?
It sounds like a story of try and error until you find out what's happening and what not.
Yeah, look, the thing is, we have to be agile. We have to be able to be very flexible about what we're doing. So if we get word that we've only got the actor for one day and it's not the day that we thought it was going to be, then we might reconstruct the shots and do it in another way. The most important thing about using virtual production is your post happens before your shoot. You have to build those backgrounds. That's the one thing. You have to be prepared for that. But once you've built them, then you're not so, the actor's schedule doesn't have such a big impact on everything, because if you're shooting something in a historical building, for example, and you're only allowed to use it on Mondays because it's closed to the public, and then you're only going to get your actor on a Thursday, those problems are not so important now.
I want to say also something. I think about this kind of production, the vertical production. During the pandemic, was more helpful to make movies with this kind of production than the traditional or not?
Absolutely, during the pandemic, because it reduced travel time, and that was one of the big issues that we had. We had people, everyone wanted to be on a private jet, and that's not about, I can't blame them for it, because everyone, you know, traveling was a really scary thing. All of the people, one of those was shot during the pandemic. Everyone was PCR tested and you know, in the usual way that we've been filming. But yeah, 100%, it's easier. It's definitely safer because there's less people in contact. And also, I think, you know, again, the art department who are creating the sets in the virtual world don't have to be in the same place. They can be anywhere. I mean, you know, how can this affect Thessaloniki? You know, you can be building the most amazing things here and doing the most amazing things here. And, you know, you don't need to have the big studios that other countries do. Like in Bulgaria, we have a massive studio, and, you know, there's a lot of equipment and everything there. And it's expensive to run those kind of things. Whereas if there's communication and coordination, I think, you know, these things can be built anywhere. And we're using as many local people as we can to try and, you know, build up this community here of people who are able to work on these big projects.
Thank you.